A biblical perspective on life, culture and current events. This is 2020 on Vision.
Well, in this high-tech, sophisticated age, being a parent has never been so difficult, let alone being a kid. And we're really blessed today to have Dan Warlow in the studio with us. He is a children's entertainer. He goes into schools in Australia and overseas, providing great Christian music and concerts. He also appears on Vision Kids, and Dan Warlow joins me in the studio today. Dan, welcome.
G'day, Andrew. Good to be here.
Dan, you are out there doing it. Tell us briefly what you do in the schools and how that works.
Yeah, I'll go into a school and it's aimed at primary school kids, and we have a whole heap of fun. I'm throwing out streamers, we're singing songs, they're doing actions, jumping up, sitting down, bring out I've got my puppet Jed, do ventriloquism, and it's all about leading them on a big story and journey through to telling them about God's love.
Awesome.
And then, it's great.
Yeah. And you're doing that, as I said, Australia, also overseas. You're about to go to Fiji.
Yeah.
But many of our audience today are parents, and as you are as well. Yeah. What are the issues facing kids today?
I think we'd need about a 24-hour segment to cover that.
Well, let's
so
do the
many,
top two, maybe three. Give us your top two, maybe three.
Oh, okay. I think tech. I think how the question of the impacts of technology on kids and parenting. The other thing is, I think, and this ties in, like the idea of loneliness. I think we're lonelier than ever before, or like disconnected. And I think those are big ones. And then also just digging into like emotional intelligence, like what's people being able to articulate what's going on in their hearts, and being real with each other. I think
without using an emoji.
Without using an emoji, that's right.
Because that is
I think
issue,
connection, right? So connection's the key.
Yeah,
we're disconnected, and
Yeah, well, that is the issue, isn't it? These kids are great at communicating via tech, but as you said, that doesn't necessarily mean they learn how to engage with another human. But let's go back to the first one. So this whole tech thing. Yeah. So tech is a big issue.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
I love this topic. Okay. I'm often helping people with their iPhones, like make them quicker and stuff, and I'm all looking into the AI stuff and things that are happening there. But I know that for kids, the problem that they have now, which we didn't have when we were back at school, is that they bring the hustle and bustle of the playground back with them into the bedroom. So this stuff, which like when we would have a break from it, good and bad, okay, we would have a break from it. But now, for example, with bullying, it can continue on the phone afterwards. So that's like a direct problem where the bullying can continue. But this whole thing of social media sets up this precedence of comparison. And I think that's a problem, because when your joy is relative, if you're comparing it to other people, you're comparing the reality of your life with the Instagram highlights of other people. And it's like trying to sing better than an auto-tune. It's not real. And so I just think that's not helpful either. And then there's all this study on focus and how, like dopamine, and how you get addicted to, I know this personally, it's just so easy to, what they call doom scroll. You're just like going, because it's just everything, what's going to come next? It's like they say, it's like cocaine or whatever.
Well, it's interesting. I think there's some adults.
It's addictive.
Yeah, I think there's some adults that fall into that trap as well. Like, to be honest, about Instagram. Like, I know a lot of people.
Yeah, I was
look at
saying,
Instagram.
I'm preaching to myself here. I'm actively working really, really hard on it.
Yeah, and as you said, even adults can look at photos and think, "Wow, they look so happy. I'm not happy. There's obviously something wrong in my life because look at all their smiles and they're on these overseas." Yeah. Holidays, it's kind of messed up, isn't it? But kids even more so, because they don't have the ability to process like we can. They don't have the reference points that we have. So what do you think the answers are, Dan? How can we help our kids?
Oh, wow. Look, I'm just thinking of my kids, and hopefully if this can help anyone. So our kids I've got 3 girls. They're 12, 10 and 8. And
wow, that's good, mate. That's boom.
Yeah, in the calendar. We are basically trying to keep them. Our goal is to keep them off social media as long as we can. And I know it's easier said than done, but so far we've done it, and that's our goal for our kids. I know that will solve a lot of problems. We know that, so I say this to my girls, is you are going to miss out on some things. Because this is the argument they'll say. They'll say, but all our friends collaborate on this platform. All our, they will feel separate to it. And so I've sort of said to them, look, I'm really sorry, you are going to be missing out on some things. We give them alternative ways to contact their friends by calling the phones or by, using our phones or things like that. But I say you're going to miss out on some good, but you know what? You're going to thank us later because you're going to also miss out on a whole heap of rubbish.
Yeah.
All this stuff. So that, for me, is really important. And as long as we can hold that, we will. And then when they get to use it, it's about how do you manage it? How do you, what systems and what's your family culture around that, I think would be the question to work through for those who are listening who might already have children using social media. What are your family values? What's your family culture? How do you operate as a family? I think if you get that clear, it will be about limiting time. It'll be about transparency. It'll be about phones all in one place, not having them in the bedroom, things like that.
Yeah.
I keep my phone out of the bedroom.
Yeah.
And I just have my watch keeping my, next to which links to my phone. If I got a call I need to answer, it's that, but I can't scroll on the watch. So
yeah. And so obviously, so it's boundaries and
and open communication as well, like forming trust. So you want your kids to be speaking to you. If you can have that trust, and I'm bracing myself for when kids come home and say, "Oh, this happened today." I've got to hold in the reaction of "What? They said what, or they did what?" And just to actually calmly go, "Oh yeah, tell me about that," and just keep it going. Because if you're relaxed, then you're setting up a precedent of keeping the communication high, which I think is so important.
Yeah. So you've got your boundaries, and then I was just going to say that. So and love, obviously, and 3 girls. I'm just trying to think. So and they're all unique. So how do you go with loving 3 girls who are very similar in age, and I'm guessing different in personalities?
What's they are. Well, look, there was. I'm part of a men's group which I go to every 6 weeks, which is all about helping us look at what's going on in our hearts. And being better men, it's amazing. And one of the questions just last week was, how are you handling your children's hearts? What a question. So it's not how are you handling how are you at parenting? It's not that.
Yeah.
It's not how are you handling your kids? It's how are you handling their hearts? So that question just so struck me.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Because it actually has a lot of presumed questions beforehand. Is, do you know your child's heart? Do you know what goes on there? Do you know how? And it also shows uniqueness. So it really helped me because the question made me think, whoa, I reckon it's so easy to move past that because there's way bigger fires that I'm trying to put out in the world right now, but actually, heaven forbid I miss this one. I need to be there for the kids at this time.
Yeah.
And so the answer to that is how I am dealing with each of the, leading and loving my daughters.
Yeah.
Is getting to know them, keeping that connection up. Like, honestly, I feel like it's not that it's a silver bullet, but if marriages and families would focus on this one thing of how connected are we?
Yeah.
And how can we improve that? It's almost like everything would flow from that.
Yeah.
Because when you're disconnected, you're setting up a space for that isolation to happen. What happens if your kids are going through something and there isn't that communication and connection where they're going to bring that up with you?
Absolutely, and they trust you, like you said, because they know you love you. And as dads,
so I do daddy-daughter dates with the girls.
Yeah.
Tell
our listeners, what's a daddy-daughter date?
Okay, so obviously, here's a daddy-daughter date. It's time. That's it. Time with your children. And at this age where they're at, so far it's just had 2 ingredients, time and sugar. That's it.
Yep.
We're just like, hey, do you want to go daddy-daughter date? They light up, jump in the car one at a time. We always go past a newsagent or whatever and they just pick whatever they want, as in like they can pick a chocolate or whatever. And then we just go to the park or go to a cafe and have a they like having a decaf mocha or, all these things. But that's it. It's so simple.
Yeah.
I take selfies every time, and I'm looking forward to building up this big album of selfies with my daddy-daughter dates.
I love it.
And you're
such a creative personality, Dan.
Oh.
And that flows into the other issues you raise, which is the inability to really express themselves emotionally, like kids in general, not your kids.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, it all goes back to, like you said, just having that connection at home, doesn't it? Just that really solid bond between you and your kids. And I guess that is a challenge facing a lot of kids today. They don't have that bond at home, do you think?
Oh, I think the way I would phrase it is it's easy to not you will have a lot of reasons not to put time into that basket. And they will be legitimate reasons. But you've got to ask yourself, what's important for your family? And if it's true that this connection thing will actually give you like arrows in your quiver for whatever the challenges are that you're going to face, man, I want to know for me that that's very high. That bucket is filled up, So, yeah, I think that's the challenge, is that it's so easy to not do that. And I think the importance of one-on-one parent and child connection is important. I could easily. There's times a Saturday where I'm like, right, I've just got to, do this now. And I don't take them all three out at once. I take one out and I'll go back and drop them off, then the next one, and we'll do it like that. So it's so important one-on-one. And I reckon there would be some parents listening now who maybe there's a challenge that they're facing in their family, and you've been trying to find all the solutions to this problem specifically, but maybe it's about stepping back for a bit and saying, do something completely different, or even in marriage as well, like, have a break from all the other stuff, like do something which brings you back together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's God's model, isn't it? The Father, Son, Holy Spirit, they're together, and out of that they welcome others into their family, and they build people and grow people. But Dan, we could talk all day, as you said earlier, but so good to hear your insights on kids today and parenting.
Yes.
And if anyone wants to contact you, maybe someone's listening and maybe they want to do an outreach in a school in their town or city, wherever they are, Dan, how do people contact you?
So they can go to my website, danwarlow.com. If you forget the name Warlow, you can type in Dan Grow on Spotify or on
I like
Google.
that, Dan Grow.
Yeah, Grow is the name of my third album, and they can listen to the music there. And so, if you just do that, get in contact about anything. So, be great to hear. Dan
Warlow, Dan Grow, thank you so much for joining us on 2020 today. And you can hear Dan on Vision Kids performing his songs. And looking forward to chatting next time.
Thanks, Andrew. God bless.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.